Emma Carter stood before the towering iron gates of the Carter estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, her hand instinctively resting on her barely visible baby bump beneath her elegant navy dress. The invitation had arrived 3 days ago, thick cream cardstock with gold embossing, signed by Mrs. Eleanor Carter herself. Emma knew better than to mistake it for reconciliation. This was theater, and she had been cast as the villain one last time. The grand foyer sparkled with crystal chandeliers as a butler led her through marble hallways toward the dining room. Emma's heels clicked against the floor, each step measured and calm, though her heart knew what awaited. She had survived 4 years of marriage to Michael Carter, for years of being called not good enough, for years of blame for a childlessness that was never her fault. Then came Vanessa Reed, younger, brasher, more suitable to the Carter image, and Michael's betrayal had been swift and public. The dining room doors opened. 20 faces turned toward her, most wearing expressions of barely concealed amusement. Michael sat at the center of the long table beside Vanessa, who wore a diamond necklace Emma recognized from the Carter family vault. Mrs. Eleanor Carter occupied the head seat like a queen on her throne, her silver hair pulled back severely, her eyes cold and calculating. "Emma, darling," Mrs. Carter said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "How generous of you to accept our invitation. Please sit." She gestured to a chair at the far end, isolated from the family cluster. Emma walked toward it with her head high, feeling every eye track her movement like predators watching prey. Dinner began with small talk that excluded her. Then the comments started, small cuts designed to bleed slowly. "Tell me, Emma," Mrs. Carter began, dabbing her lips with a napkin, "how is your little apartment in Queens working out? Such a change from this house, I imagine." Laughter rippled around the table. Emma took a sip of water, saying nothing. Michael shifted uncomfortably but said nothing to defend her. Vanessa leaned into him possessively, whispering something that made him smile weakly. Emma felt a flutter in her belly. The baby, reminding her why she had come, why she needed to face this one last time before disappearing from their world forever. "I heard you're working as a consultant now," Mrs. Carter continued, her tone suggesting the word tasted unpleasant. "How quaint. From Carter wife to, what do they call it? Freelancing?" More laughter. Emma set down her fork carefully. She could leave. She could walk out right now. But something deeper held her in place. Not pride exactly, but a quiet certainty that this moment mattered. The main course arrived, filet mignon that Emma barely touched. Mrs. Carter watched her like a hawk. "Not hungry, dear? Or perhaps you can't afford such meals anymore." The insults grew bolder. Michael's brother joined in, making jokes about downward mobility. Michael's sister Rachel remained silent, her eyes downcast, but everyone else seemed to be enjoying the sport. Then Mrs. Carter stood, her chair scraping dramatically against the hardwood. "You know, Emma, I think we've all been too polite. Let me speak plainly." She walked around the table slowly, her heels striking the floor like a judge's gavel. "You came into this family with nothing. You gave us nothing, no children, no connections, no value whatsoever. My son wasted 4 years on you." Emma felt her hands trembling slightly, but she kept them folded in her lap. The baby kicked again, harder this time. Mrs. Carter stopped directly behind Emma's chair. "You embarrassed this family with your ordinariness. And now you have the audacity to show up here, probably hoping for sympathy, maybe even money." She laughed, a brittle sound. "But I want to make something perfectly clear about where you belong." Mrs. Carter snapped her fingers. A young maid appeared from the kitchen, looking terrified, carrying a metal bucket. Emma's stomach dropped as she recognized the smell. Dirty mop water, gray and reeking of cleaning chemicals. "No," Michael said weakly, but his mother silenced him with a look. "This," Mrs. Carter announced to the room, "is the level Emma Carter belongs to." She nodded to the maid, who hesitated, tears forming in her eyes. "Do it," Mrs. Carter commanded. The maid tipped the bucket. Cold, filthy water cascaded over Emma's head, soaking her hair, her dress, running down her face in grimy rivulets. The room exploded in shocked laughter and gasps. Emma sat perfectly still for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Water dripped from her chin onto her lap. Then she stood slowly, wiping her face with her napkin, her movements deliberate and unhurried. The laughter began to fade as something in her posture changed. A shift from victim to something else entirely. "Thank you, Eleanor," Emma said softly, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. That was clarifying. She reached into her soaked purse and pulled out her phone, water dripping from the case. "I've been patient. I've been silent. I've let you all believe whatever you wanted about me." She tapped the screen twice. "But I think it's time you understood something." Michael frowned. "Emma, what are you?" "I am Emma Carter," she interrupted, her voice growing stronger. "But I'm also Emma Hartley, founder and CEO of Orion Holdings." The name hung in the air like a bomb. Several people exchanged confused glances, but Mrs. Carter's face had gone pale. "You might recognize that name, Eleanor. Orion Holdings, the private investment group that purchased this estate's deed 2 years ago. The majority shareholder in Carter Enterprises. The entity that holds the employment contracts for most of the people in this room." The silence was absolute. Michael stood abruptly, his chair falling backward. "That's impossible. Orion Holdings is mine," Emma finished. "Always has been. I built it before we married, kept it private, and watched it grow while you all treated me like I was worthless." She looked around the room, meeting each horrified gaze. Effective immediately, all Carter family contracts are suspended pending a full corporate review. This house, Michael's company, your investments, everything will be audited. "You wanted to show me where I belong." She smiled without warmth. "I belong at the top, and you all just humiliated your landlord." Mrs. Carter's face twisted with rage and disbelief. Emma walked toward the door, water still dripping from her clothes, her head held impossibly high. Nobody moved to stop her. At the threshold, she turned back one last time. "Oh, and Eleanor? I'm 3 months pregnant with your grandchild. But don't worry. They'll never know what kind of family I saved them from." The door closed behind her with a quiet click that somehow sounded like thunder. Michael Carter didn't sleep that night. He sat in his home office, the office in the penthouse that he now realized might not actually be his, staring at his laptop screen as Google confirmed his worst nightmare. Emma Hartley, founder of Orion Holdings, net worth estimated at $3.2 billion, known for her ruthless business acumen and complete anonymity. Photograph after photograph showed a woman in business attire at charity galas, always with her face turned away from cameras or obscured by shadows. He had been married to her for 4 years and never knew. His phone buzzed incessantly. 12 missed calls from his mother, 7 from his brother, 4 from the company's CFO. He ignored them all and kept scrolling. Orion Holdings owned 43% of Carter Enterprises voting shares. They held the mortgage on the Greenwich estate. They were the silent partner in virtually every major Carter family investment. Emma hadn't just been in his life. She had been holding his entire world in her hands, and he'd thrown her away like garbage. At 3 a.m, he drove to Emma's apartment in Queens, the place his mother had mocked just hours earlier. It was actually a converted brownstone in a tree-lined neighborhood, understated but elegant. He rang the bell repeatedly until a light came on. Emma appeared at the door in a robe, her hair still damp from washing out the mop water, her face bare and tired. "Go home, Michael," she said quietly. "Emma, please. We need to talk. My mother. She's insane, I know that now. What she did was unforgivable. But you can't punish everyone for her. Your mother." Emma's laugh was bitter. "Michael, your mother has been cruel to me for 4 years. You think tonight was special? It was just the loudest version of what she's always done." She wrapped her robe tighter. "And you sat there, like you always sat there, You watched her dump dirty water on the mother of your child, and you said nothing until it was too late. I was in shock, he protested, but the excuse sounded weak even to his own ears. You were comfortable, Emma corrected. You've always been comfortable watching me suffer as long as it kept the peace with your family. She touched her stomach gently. This baby deserves better than a father who only speaks up when his money is threatened. Michael felt panic rising in his chest. I love you, Emma. I made mistakes with Vanessa, I know, but we can fix this. We can be a family. Just call off the audit, please. The company will collapse. Emma's eyes were hard in the porch light. You love me? You filed for divorce 8 months ago, Michael. You told me I was insufficient as a wife. Vanessa moved into our bedroom before the papers were even finalized. Her voice cracked slightly, the first sign of emotion. I grieved that marriage. I grieved the man I thought you were. And then I got pregnant with the child you said I could never give you. And I realized I didn't need your family's approval or your mother's cruelty or your weakness. I needed to protect this baby from all of you. Emma, the audit stands, she said firmly. Every contract, every agreement, every dollar will be examined. If your business practices are sound, you'll be fine. If they're not, she shrugged, then you'll learn what it's like to lose everything, just like you made me feel. She started to close the door, then paused. And Michael, stop calling this love. You don't love me. You love what I can do for you. There's a difference. The door closed. Michael stood on the empty street as dawn began to break over Queens, and for the first time in his privileged life, he understood what powerlessness felt like. By noon the next day, the Carter family empire was in freefall. Orion Holdings' legal team had frozen access to operational accounts pending verification of fund usage. The Greenwich estate staff received notices that their employment was under review. Michael's company headquarters buzzed with rumors and panic as department heads tried to figure out what was happening. Mrs. Eleanor Carter had locked herself in her bedroom, refusing to speak to anyone. Her pride shattered by the revelation that the woman she tormented was the puppet master behind everything they owned. Michael's brother James cornered him in the parking garage. You have to fix this. Talk to her. Apologize. Do whatever it takes. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by desperation. My investment accounts are frozen, Michael. Everything I have is tied up in this. You think I haven't tried? Michael shot back. She won't see me. She won't take my calls. I destroyed the only real thing I ever had, and now we're all paying for it. Rachel found him that evening at a bar downtown, nursing his third whiskey. She slid into the booth across from him, her expression serious. I met with Emma today, she said without preamble. Michael's head snapped up. She agreed to see me because I never participated in Mother's games. I stayed quiet, which isn't much better, but I never laughed. What did she say? Will she reconsider? Rachel shook her head slowly. Michael, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago. She took a deep breath. Mother knew Emma was pregnant. 3.5 months ago, Emma went to the house to tell you. You were out of town, so she told Mother instead, thinking she'd be happy about a grandchild. Michael's blood ran cold. What? Mother called Emma a liar. She accused her of trying to trap you, said the baby probably wasn't even yours. She told Emma that if she ever mentioned the pregnancy to you, she would make sure Emma was destroyed publicly. Every nasty detail of the divorce dragged through society pages, every connection Emma ever had poisoned against her. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Emma was going to fight back, but Mother discovered something about her business. Not everything, obviously, but enough to threaten her reputation. So Emma stayed quiet, protected herself, and disappeared. Why are you telling me this now? Michael whispered. Because Emma deserves for you to know the truth before she walks away forever, Rachel said. Mother didn't just humiliate her at dinner. Mother has been systematically destroying her for years, and you let it happen because it was easier than standing up to our family. She stood to leave. Emma told me something else. She said she came to that dinner hoping, just a tiny bit hoping, that you would finally defend her. That when the cruelty started, you would stand up and say enough. But you didn't. You never have. And that's why she can't forgive you. Rachel left him sitting there, the weight of every failure crushing down on his shoulders. He had been so concerned with keeping his mother happy, maintaining family harmony, preserving his comfortable life that he had sacrificed the one person who genuinely loved him. And now that person held all the cards, and he had no moves left to make. The corporate review continued for 3 days. Michael watched his company's operations scrutinized by forensic accountants who found irregularities in family member expense accounts, questionable bonus structures, nepotistic contracts that hadn't been earned. None of it was illegal, but all of it looked terrible under examination. The board called an emergency meeting to discuss Michael's leadership, and he realized with growing horror that Emma could remove him entirely if she wanted to. She owned enough shares. She had enough power. She could erase him. Emma agreed to meet Michael one final time, not in her apartment or his office, but in a neutral conference room at Orion Holdings' Midtown Manhattan headquarters. Michael had never seen the building before. A sleek glass tower in Tribeca that whispered wealth and power in ways his family's old money estate could never match. The receptionist, polite but cold, escorted him to the 15th floor where Emma waited in a corner office overlooking the Hudson River. She wore a charcoal suit, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, her baby bump now visible but professional. She looked like what she was, a billionaire CEO who had built an empire while his family treated her like a servant. Michael felt small in his expensive Italian suit, realizing that all his inherited wealth and status meant nothing here, in her kingdom. "Thank you for coming," Emma said formally, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. "No worms, no familiarity." They could have been strangers negotiating a contract. "Emma, I know what my mother did. Rachel told me everything. About the pregnancy, the threats, all of it." Michael's voice cracked. "I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have chosen you over her 1,000 times. And I never did." Emma nodded slowly, as if he'd simply confirmed something she already knew. "Your mother is a cruel woman, Michael. But cruelty requires enablers. She could only hurt me because you allowed it." She opened a folder on her desk. "Your company's audit is complete. There's nothing criminal, but there's substantial evidence of nepotism, financial favoritism, and mismanagement. Your board wants you removed." Michael felt his stomach drop. "Are you going to let them?" "I haven't decided," Emma said honestly. "Part of me wants to watch everything you have crumble. Part of me remembers that I once loved you enough to marry you, and that feels like a reason to show mercy." She touched her stomach. "And part of me knows this baby might someday ask about their father, and I'd prefer not to say I destroyed him." "Then don't," Michael pleaded. "Emma, I'll do anything. I'll remove my mother from all family business decisions. I'll publicly apologize. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you and our child." "That's the problem, Michael. You still don't understand." Emma stood and walked to the window, her silhouette backlit by afternoon sun. "This isn't about what you'll do going forward. This is about what you failed to do when it mattered. You say you'll protect us now, but only because I have power. Only because I can hurt you back. Where was this energy when I was defenseless? When I needed you to simply say, 'Don't speak to my wife that way,' to your mother?" Michael had no answer. Emma continued, her voice steady but laced with pain. "I spent 4 years making myself smaller so your family would accept me. I hid my success, played the dutiful wife, swallowed every insult because I believed in us. And when your mother discovered I was pregnant with the grandchild she'd been demanding for years, instead of celebrating, she threatened me into silence because she couldn't stand the idea of me having value. I didn't know. Because you never asked." Emma's composure cracked slightly. "You never wondered why I suddenly stopped coming to family dinners. You never questioned why I looked sad all the time. You just accepted the divorce because Vanessa was easier, shinier, less complicated. She took a breath, regaining control. You chose the path of least resistance, Michael. And now you want me to believe you've changed because the resistance has become unbearable. The office fell silent except for the muted sound of city traffic below. Michael stared at his hands, shame washing over him in waves. What happens now? He finally asked. Emma returned to her desk, her movements graceful despite her pregnancy. The board will vote on your position next week. I'll abstain. Let them decide based on merit rather than personal history. Your mother will be removed from all Carter Enterprises advisory roles immediately. The estate will remain under Orion Holdings ownership, but your family can continue living there under revised lease terms that include a code of conduct. She pulled out another document. And you will sign this custody agreement establishing my full parental authority while granting you supervised visitation rights once the baby is born, assuming you complete parenting classes and therapy. Supervised. Michael's pride flared briefly, but Emma's look silenced him. You stood by while your mother abused me, Michael. You think I'm letting you have unsupervised access to my child until you prove you've learned to stand up for what's right. Her tone was matter-of-fact, not cruel. This isn't punishment. This is protection. If you want to be a real father, you'll have to earn it. Michael took the document with shaking hands. Everything in him wanted to argue, to negotiate, to fight back. But as he read the terms, reasonable, fair, but firmly establishing Emma's control, he realized this was more mercy than he deserved. I'll sign it, he said quietly, and I'll do the work. I'll prove to you that I can be better. Don't prove it to me, Emma corrected gently. Prove it to yourself. And someday prove it to our child. She stood, signaling the meeting's end. I don't hate you, Michael. I'm just done waiting for you to become the man I needed you to be. I've built a life without you. I've become someone I'm proud of. And this baby will grow up knowing they're loved fiercely by a mother who refuses to settle for less than she deserves. Michael signed the documents, each stroke of the pen feeling like the closing of a chapter he wished he could rewrite. As he stood to leave, he paused at the door. For what it's worth, I am proud of you, of what you've built. You were always extraordinary, Emma. I was just too stupid to see it. Emma's expression softened slightly, the first hint of the woman he'd married breaking through her professional armor. I know, she said simply, and that's why I'm walking away. I don't need you to see my worth anymore, Michael. I see it myself. 3 weeks later, Emma stood in the same office, now decorated with soft yellows and greens for the nursery she was preparing at home. The board had voted to keep Michael as CEO but under strict oversight and reduced authority. Mrs. Eleanor Carter had been removed from all family business roles, her influence finally curtailed. The Greenwich estate had new rules and new management. The empire hadn't crumbled, but it had been fundamentally restructured around accountability rather than entitlement. Rachel visited that afternoon, bringing baby gifts and genuine warmth. Mother hasn't spoken to me since I told Michael the truth, she said, not sounding particularly sad about it. But I should have spoken up years ago. I'm sorry I didn't. Emma poured them both tea, herbal for herself, regular for Rachel. You did more than most. You gave me the truth when I needed it. She smiled slightly. And you're going to be an excellent aunt, if you want that role. I do, Rachel said firmly. This baby deserves family who actually show up for them. As Rachel left, Emma returned to the window overlooking the river, her hand on her growing belly. She thought about the woman who had walked into that dinner 3 weeks ago, soaking wet and humiliated, and compared her to the woman standing here now, powerful, secure, unbroken. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had revealed her strength in ways comfort never could. Her phone buzzed. A message from her assistant. Michael's therapist confirmed his enrollment in the parenting program. First session completed. Emma allowed herself a small nod of approval. He was doing the work. Whether it would be enough remained to be seen, but at least he was trying. The sun set over Manhattan, painting the sky in golds and purples. Emma felt the baby kick, strong and insistent, a reminder of the future she was building. She had walked away from humiliation and into her power. She had refused to beg for respect and instead commanded it. And most importantly, she had learned that her worth was never dependent on whether others could see it. It existed whether they acknowledged it or not. The Carters had tried to show her where she belonged. Instead, she had shown them where she stood, at the top, unshakable, ready to build a life where love didn't require diminishing yourself, where family meant protection rather than pain, and where revenge was simply the act of becoming so fully yourself that those who underestimated you could only watch in wonder as you soared. Emma's story reminds us that our value isn't determined by how others treat us, but by how we choose to treat ourselves. When people try to humiliate you, remember that their cruelty often reveals their own insecurity, not your inadequacy. True strength isn't about revenge. It's about building a life so authentic and purposeful that you no longer need validation from those who couldn't see your worth. Emma didn't defeat the Carters with anger. She defeated them with self-knowledge, patience, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are. Sometimes walking away isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself, protecting your peace, and creating space for people who will celebrate rather than diminish you. Love yourself fiercely, set boundaries firmly, and remember that the best comeback is becoming the fullest version of who you were always meant to be. If this story touched you, moved you, or reminded you of your own strength, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories, and share it with someone who needs to hear that they are worthy of respect and love. Comment below. What moment in Emma's journey resonated most with you? Let's build a community where we lift each other up and celebrate the courage it takes to choose yourself.